Hello, a pleasant evening to each and everyone who are with us tonight in the StackLeague Symph Tech Session, wherein we will be discussing REST APIs, how HTTP guides web service development, and mobile development using React Native. So I would like to greet or to say hi to all of our viewers from Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to our event. Tonight, I am Isai and I will be your host for tonight's event. So, just a quick reminder, if you have any questions about the session, feel free to type them in the comment section and we will be addressing them later during the Q&A session. So, while the speaker um, is the talk is ongoing, so feel free to type in your questions and we will be addressing them later during the Q&A session. So I know you're all excited to gain something no very insightful and learn something tonight. But before we dive into tonight's session, we would like to give you first an overview of StackLeague. We have here King Bartolome of StackLeague. He will help me discuss more on StackLeague. King?
Thank you, Isai. Good evening, everyone. Again, I am King, and I will be sharing with you a quick overview of StackLeague, especially if it's your first time to attend the StackLeague or any of StackLeague's event. All right, so let's move. Let's move forward. StackLeague is the Philippines' largest online programming league. Our mission is to develop programming leaders to inspire, or that would inspire the nation into coding. So the tournament is powered by StackTrek's fully automated talent analytics and assessment platform. Now that StackLeague is in its second competitive year, StackLeague wouldn't be possible without the support of our partners, and we're very fortunate enough to be supported by the top companies in the industry. So we have silver sponsor, the coding chiefs. We also have bronze sponsors. We have Microsoft, Dell Tech Systems, Upper.ph, Recruit Day, and Gcash. And we also have our media partners. We have SparkUp, Apps Gadget, What's Up Pilipinas, Corner Magazine PH, Android Disc, Megabytes, Backend News, Blue Wing, and Manila Republic. And of course, the same goes for our community partners who help the league reach as many programmers in the country as possible. So here they are. So Stack League is a pioneering programming league launched last year of March 16 of 2021 and is now gathering over 10,000 tech talents across the country to test their leadership, perseverance, and their coding skills. So with the promise of nationwide media recognition, lots of prizes, thousands of tech job opportunities, and access to invitation-only events. And the league's year-round cash prize pool is now at 10 million pesos in the duration of the whole competition. So one of the highlights of Stack League is the weekly stack race, both for individual and team categories. So each week, the top 10 challengers and top 3 teams are going to be announced all across Stack League's social media platform to recognize the challengers who stayed on top of the rankings. And apart from these, we also have the Stack League featured programmer and team campaign, wherein the weekly top 10 challengers and top 3 teams are going to be announced on our Stack League's website and, of course, on our social media channels. And moving forward, Stack League will also be hosting numerous events or numerous tech and career sessions all throughout the year. And aside from this, we have exclusive trainings available for ranking up to the next challenger levels. So these events and trainings are all for free. So all you have to do is be a part of Stack League or have an account of in Stack League. And we also have the Stack League Ambassador Program. It is a year-round initiative to reward Stack League challengers who go beyond the competition and inspire the nation into coding. So to tell you more about the Stack League Ambassador Program, here is a short clip for you to see. Let's all congratulate Jeremiah Daniel Regalario for being the StackLeague ambassador for the month of May. So winning the 3,000 pesos cash prize and a StackLeague t-shirt. So if you want to be the next StackLeague ambassador and win the cash prize and t-shirt, the program is still open for the month of June. So you can find the full mechanics at our website, bit.ly/StackLeague Ambassador 2022. Okay, so moving forward, for the ranking system and for the initial competition, there are five supported programming languages, programming languages in the Stack League. So we have JavaScript, Java, Python, C Sharp, and PHP. So for the ranking system, so this is how it works. So after signing up, you will be starting at the bottom with 0 points, and all you need to do is solve as many challenges as you can, and you will earn corresponding points. So the more points you earn, the higher your ranking goes. And once you have accumulated enough points, you can now go or get to the next level challenges where more opportunities are unlocked for you to access. So there are three challenger levels in Stack League. We have bronze, silver, and gold level. So the new thing for this year's challenger level up are the prizes. So once you unlock bronze level, you will receive 100 pesos, and unlock silver level, you will also receive 100 pesos. And once you unlock the gold level, you will receive 300 pesos for a total of 500 pesos. And of course, there's also the Stack League Treasure Chest. So individual category, where in the weekly top 10, challengers will each receive 500 cash prize. And of course, we also have our Stack League playoffs. This is a single elimination tournament featuring all monthly qualifiers, where all weekly top 10 Stack League challengers will automatically be invited, be invited to the monthly qualifier rounds. So you can read the full mechanics at bit.ly/Stack League Playoffs 2022. So to know more, here is another clip for you to see. Lastly, if you're interested in testing your skill in a time-bound programming competition, such as Stack League playoffs, but you couldn't get in the weekly top 10, the Lightning Series is open to all non-gold level challengers. So you can find the full mechanics at bit.ly/Lightning Series Mechanics, and the schedule for the month of June has been posted already. So please take note, you will receive an email for the invitation. And I think that's it for the overview of Stack League. So, and remember that as a year-round tournament, Stack League is looking for the best challengers that can stay up in the ranks and become programming leaders for the long haul. That's all on my end. Back to you, Isai.
Thank you, King, for that short introduction about Stack League. So, for our viewers tonight, if you do not have any Stack League account yet, this is the best time to create your account. Just simply go to stackleague.com, and, well, who knows, you might be our top players at the end of the year. So, there you have it. And let us not delay any further. I would like to introduce to you our first resource speaker. He's a software engineer in the industry for 8 years, and he also has a broad experience of technologies on the web platform, applying trends and practices to build various kinds of software, from full-fledged websites and apps to back-end services, powering clients in fintech, real estate, digital education, and e-commerce. Let's give a warm welcome to Allan Crisostomo. And let me also introduce to you our second resource speaker. So this is for this event, we'll be having two resource speakers. So our second resource speaker is a former Google Developer Students Club lead of Cebu Institute of Technology University and a former GDG Philippines comms team volunteer. During He's also a GDG DevFest Cebu 2019 speaker and a former freelance VBA and IoT systems developer and consultant, and is currently a full stack web and mobile developer. Let us all give a warm welcome to Elram Espra. And for our first talk tonight, we will be hearing from Alan. Alan?
Thank you very much for StackLeague for giving us an opportunity to reach a lot of people. And also, a huge thank you to all of the people who are attending right now. I hope you are very excited to learn about something new. So, yes, what I'm going to talk today is about HTTP and REST, and why is HTTP so relevant these days? It's because HTTP is ubiquitous. So um, regarding HTTP, like you can see, it's being used on desktop devices, on browsers, on mobile devices. So it's being used to communicate to a lot of internet-enabled or web-powered software out there. And I think it's gonna be this trend as soon as the internet is still here. So HTTP will be everywhere, and it's not just HTTP. We have companion technologies that are formulated together with HTTP. So the early web, in its conception, like in the 1970s or 1980s, remember that the internet used to be like something like a secretive project. So it used to be for the military, and then only the universities had some access to the internet. So what the internet was before is just a network between two universities. If I remember correctly, it was the universities in California, and before, it was really straightforward. You just communicate data across computers connected with the web. So the early web, kind of like an office. If you go to an office, there are a lot of documents out there, various kinds of documents. And what's powerful about the early web before is that there's a concept called hyperlinks. So when you have a physical document, you only have like a static piece of paper. You can't refer to another piece of paper without having to retrieve the physical paper yourself. But with the early web, we have like hyperlinks. And with these hyperlinks, we also have technologies like the hypertext markup language, which was used to like format documents and um, create links to another documents. And of course, we have the protocol that we all love, HTTP, so hypertext transfer protocol. So it was used to transfer hypertext across computers that are familiar or able to communicate with this protocol. And so we have the evolution of the web. Eventually, we have a lot of users connecting to the web, and now it's kind of like a warehouse. We don't just serve the documents that we need. We also serve like images. We also serve like videos, even full-fledged games. We also serve them through uh, a lot of bundles of files. And it's really amazing that how simple it was. Now we have like a lot of content being served across the web through the HTTP protocol. And and for this protocol to like be functional in the modern world, we have to like some technologies that should be able to accommodate this kind of request. So we're not just linking documents, we're linking assets, we're linking actual resources. So we're not just linking files right now. We're linking resources, because files, they kind of like, they are very platform specific. So it's more of like relegated to the desktop realm, relegated to the platform realm. While in the web, we don't have such concepts of these files. We only have resources, and warehouses store resources, and that's why, uh, like let's rewind a bit. Like in 2000s, there's this guy called Roy Fielding. So he was taking his doctor's degree, and so for his dissertation, he created something like REST. So REST stands for representational state transfer. It's kind of a mouthful, but kind of like you're turning the web, the front end and the back end, into something like a state machine. So one example of a state machine is, the famous example of vending machines. We insert a coin to the vending machine, and then it registers what kind of coin that we inserted. Is it a 1 peso coin, 5 peso coin, 10 peso coin, even bills, for example? Uh, so kind of like we're giving it an input, and then the feedback would be something like, this person added 1 peso coin, and then should be 1 peso, and then we insert another 1 peso, and then it registers 2 pesos. So REST, like in general scheme of things, REST is kind of like that. To input something like the requests, and then the feedback for us is the response. So REST is actually, REST is representational state transfer, uh, meaning it doesn't have any state. So whenever you send a request to a RESTful server, so it doesn't care what state the client is, because the client is supposed to give the state to the server. That's why it's a representational state transfer. The client gives its state to the server, and then the server transfers the state from one state into another, and then returns back to the client for the client to register the state change. So actually, for the first very vital piece of information for REST APIs is that we have something like content negotiation. For content negotiation, we have two types: a proactive and the reactive negotiation. A proactive, meaning the client, the terms proactive and reactive are with respect to the server providing the RESTful service. So when we say proactive negotiation, the client specifies a preferred way of retrieving the content, and the server is proactive on how to effectively process that request. So whenever the client says, "Oh, give me an HTML document," or if the HTML document isn't, or give me some document, and then the server kind of like proactively sends, "I see you like a document for your request. I shall serve you an HTML." Or if say the server isn't capable of sending HTML requests, and then I should serve you something like Markdown or text or some other document format. But the point here is that um, the server is in control of how to serve the client, because it is proactive on how to fulfill the request. While the reactive negotiation is the client requests kind of like, give me something, give me a document to the server, and then the server responds, "Oh, what kind of document do you want? Like, is it an HTML document, a markup document, or a text document?" And then it is up to the client to select what kind of document he or she wants to receive, and then the server will fulfill the request successfully. So these kinds of content negotiations, they have their pros and cons, but I feel like it's really kind of a case basis on how to, like, weigh in the pros and cons of these content negotiations. But you get the idea. It depends on like how the server will process the request from the client. And so we have three vital things that we would like to talk into in regards to like implementing a RESTful server. So we call servers that adhere to the REST architectural style as RESTful. So REST is an architecture style. It is not a kind of app. It is how you build your app. It is how you build your service. So the a RESTful service or web service takes account these three things: the methods, the headers, specifically the client headers, and the responses it returns to the client. So let's talk about the methods first. So for a RESTful API to be considered as RESTful, we need to pay attention to how the client, like what kind of request the client is sending to the server. So we have what we call safe methods. So these methods have read-only semantics, meaning uh, read only. So we're kind of retrieving something from the server, we're not modifying it. So these methods are options, get, head, and trace. So these are safe methods because they are not doing something under the hood. Like when you try to request something using these methods, you're supposed to like not expect something other than having your request fulfilled. And then we have what we call idempotent methods. So these are requests made using have the same outcome to the target resource, even though the response might be slightly different. So when we say idempotent, when we make a request, for example, when we make a get request to a resource, so we're getting a resource from the server. Uh, when we get the resource again, like it should be the same outcome for us. Outcome meaning not necessarily the response, but more of like the state of the client or the service. I mean, so when we make a get request and then we make a get request, the same get request again, we should expect the same outcome. And then for like when we make something like a put request, when we put a resource to the server, we should be putting something as a resource to the server, and then when we try to make this request again, it should be the same outcome on the server. Like the same resource should be there in the same location. And then when we try to retrieve that resource, it should be on the same location. So these are what we call idempotent methods. So again, the same outcome to the target resource, even though the response might be slightly different. For example, if you delete a resource and then you delete it again, you should be expecting to receive an error because you can delete something that does not exist. But the overall state of the service remains the same as when you before deleted the resource. So like that's how idempotent methods work. And then we have something like a cacheable method. So when we say a cacheable method, any request that we make using these methods, we can reuse these the responses that we have for the requests made using these methods. For example, if um, we are retrieving a resource which requires a heavy computation on the server, uh, if a client requests that resource, uh, we should be able to cache that response again, so we don't have to do the calculations again and again. This is for responsiveness reasons, so that the client doesn't have the preconception that the server is really that slow, because it is technically slow because it's doing the heavy computations, but we could save the response for later, so that we don't have to like compute again and when we make the same request. And then so we explained the actual semantics behind these methods. So um, again, there are like a handful of methods, but I'm gonna discuss only the methods that are usually used when consuming a RESTful API a or when we say we are building a RESTful service ourselves. So for the options method, it only describes the communication options for the target resource. So this is, for example, when we can only communicate in HTTP 1 or HTTP 2. So we request an options request to the server so that we know what kind of protocol we can use to that resource. And then we have a get. So the get is just transfer a current representation of the target resource. So just get something from the server. Very, very straightforward. Head is same as get, but only transfer the status line in header section. So when we request something using the HTTP, when we open up the browser and then we inspect the requests coming for the net from the network tab, we usually see the headers, the response headers, and the actual payload itself. So when we make something using the get request, we are supposed to receive the payload itself, like the resource, the representation of the resource. But when we use head, we only get the headers, like the metadata. That we don't, the server doesn't have to transfer a bigger payload for us. We can only use head if we want to see like the status of the resource that we're trying to retrieve. So, and then we have post. So post performs resource specific processing on the request payload. So post is kind of like very uh, very generic method. Like when we make post requests, we can also like, besides creating a resource, we can like submit a request, like a login request. Login, it's not necessarily a resource, but we make post requests through it because we want to submit a request. We want to post a request to the server. That's why we are using post. And the usual guidelines, this is based from my experience, is when we create resources, like when we add or create or compute, and then we store it. When we create resources, we return 201 created, else we return accepted. But we'll get to that later when we talk about the responses. And then we have the put method. So this only replaces all current representations of the target resource, but only replaces the resource that we have from the server originally. And then we have patch. So patch is kind of like a new addition to the RESTful standard. So when the original draft was made, there was no patch, but eventually we added patch because we don't have to replace the resource every time. We can only like replace a subset of the resource. So patch is kind of like a partial put. So replace a portion of the target resource. Or another way to think of patch is we instruct like the server to how to modify a resource. So that's the purpose of patch. And then lastly, we have delete. So delete is remove all current representations of the target resource. Take note that when we make a delete request, it should be something like a hard delete. Like we shouldn't be able to retrieve that resource again. We should return an appropriate response code for the resource when we try to access it when it's already deleted. When we try to soft delete, maybe we should consider using put or patch, so that we can still restore the resource that we want. So the next part, the headers. So specifically the client headers, because all of the things that are important in REST services is all of the requests come from the client. So even though like when we try to communicate between servers, there's still always the one acting as the client. And for creating our requests, we need to like specify certain headers when we try to obtain resources in a specific way, or when we try to put or modify resources in a specific way. Again, it's the list of headers that I'm gonna discuss is not exhaustive. There's a lot of headers, I recommend checking the MDN page for headers, or if you want, you can look at the original document from the Internet Engineering Task Force. So we have content negotiation headers. So again, we discussed the content negotiation. Uh, so these are sent by the user agent or client to specify the content type, character set, encoding, and language of the resource to retrieve. So when we want to receive the resource in a specific format, we try to use these headers depending on what kind of format that we want. If we want a JSON response, we should put accept. When we want to receive the resource in another character set like UTF-8 or UTF-16 or some other character set, we use the accept char set. And then the difference between char set and encoding is that char set is for text, while encoding is more of like the lower level encoding on how you encode the response, either gzip, deflate, broadly, something like that is for accept encoding. And then accept language, if we want to like receive a response in another language, so we use accept language. And then conditional headers, we allow a client to place a precondition in the state of the target resource so that the action corresponding to the method semantics will not be applied. So this is when we want to retrieve a resource. For example, if uh, if it's not yet modified since a certain date, then we want to retrieve the newest version or something like that. So these are kind of like a signal to how we should retrieve the resource when satisfying a certain condition. And then we have the authentication credentials headers. So these headers are sent alongside the request to to make sure that the client is authenticated. So we use something like authorization or proxy authorization, depending on if we are not using a proxy or we are, respectively. So this is where we put our access tokens usually. And the next thing that we want to talk about is the responses. So there are a lot of responses. There are OK responses. There are client error responses. There are server error responses. So again, this list is not exhaustive. If you're curious, you can check the official documents yourself. But we can discuss when should we or when should we not use some response codes when we are creating our service. So we have the 200 OK response. So this is the generic success response. We use this in every request. Actually, this is like the basic of the basic OK responses, because when we say 200 or some response code starting in 2, that means that something is okay, something is not really exceptional. So we use the 200 set of headers, the 200 set of response codes. So returned by post and put requests when there are no resources created, only modified. Other methods, we can return 200 OK when there's nothing wrong. When it's business as usual. And then we use 201 created when we have created some resource on the service. So it depends on the method that we use. Usually we use post and put when we create something on the service. Sometimes we use patch, but I think it's not really commonplace that we create a resource using patch. Usually we create a resource using post and put, because that's what we use to create or update or like in place a resource in the server. And then we have 202 accepted. this is returned when the request has been accepted for processing. So this is more of like hey, we received your request, but we might not be able to give you an immediate response for now. So we would like to point you to the specific URL you can visit if you want to check on the status of the resource. So this is what we use. This is usually given when there are long-running processes that need to be uh, made in order to like register the resource on the service. So something like a deferred request or deferred response. And then we have 203 non-authoritative information. So this is returned by a proxy server. Uh, there are chances that we don't have direct means to communicate to an origin server. That's why we're using a proxy server. And for a proxy server, when when it returns 203, it means that uh, it has been modified. Like the original request that we want, the original resource that we want to retrieve has been modified by the proxy server. So this is more of like cautionary response. And 204, no content. This is the same as other the 200, okay, but we don't have to return a payload or like a response payload. Like there's blank. And then 205, reset content. So it's like 204, no content, but this is a signal for the user agent that made the request to reset the form. Like, for example, if you're making a chat app, then you might want to return something like this. 300 multiple choices. So there's just a multiple choice. So we can retrieve the resource in different URLs. And 301, move permanently, returned when the resource resides under a new URL. So like a permanent redirect. So you can't find this resource in this URL anymore. Use the new URL. This is what we use to say that. And then we have something like found or temporary redirect. So this is returned. 302 found is returned when the resource resides under a new URI specified in the location header. However, the method might be changed to get compared to 307. When we make a post request to a resource and then it returns 302 found, we should expect that the request to the redirect URL will become get. As compared to 307, when we make a response and then the server returns 307, and then like for the redirect URL, we're not supposed to change the request method. So we used post before, we must use post to the new redirect URL. And now we're going to the client errors. We have two types of client errors here regarding error malformed requests or error requests. So we have 400. We should return 400 when there's a syntax error, like when it's a JSON parse error. When we're supposed to send JSON and then there's something wrong with the JSON, we should return 400. Else, when there's a business logic error, we should return 422 because the syntax is correct. Like the attributes are correct, but we're not able to process it because of some business logic error or constraint. That's why we should return 402. But when there are missing attributes or simply a syntax error, we should return 400. And this one is when we should use unauthorized or forbidden. We use unauthorized when there's no authorization. Like, and then we have 403 forbidden when the client has insufficient authorization. Now, allow me to explain it with a meme. So this is what we do when we have 401 unauthorized. So when the client requests a resource, the server just returns 401 unauthorized. And then when the client provides an authorization saying he's the boss, and then the server will respond to 200 OK. This is for 401 unauthorized. So we simply add an authorization header, which contains the access token that we have for the client. Now for 403, we have the authorization, but for a specific resource where the specific client is not allowed to access that resource. So I'm the only person who can access this resource is literally me. That's why when that guy tries to access the resource, he is forbidden, while I have 200 OK. And we have two responses actually for not found or gone. So this is when the resources this is the response code that we have for returning something that is not the resource that does not exist in the server. So for generic error requests, when something is not found in the server, we return 404. When the resource was not created in the first place, or the server is not willing to disclose a presence, such as when it's a sensitive data, we usually return 404, so that any other client is not able to discern if there is an existing endpoint there or not. And then we have 410 gone. So this is what we return when we have like a soft deleted resource. So we still have the resource on the server, but it technically does not exist. It's already gone somewhere else. So it was previously deleted, and if we want to like say if there used to be a resource here, we return 410 gone. 405 method not allowed when we try to make a get request to post endpoint. So this is what we return. 405 method not allowed. And 406 not acceptable when we try to make content negotiation, but the server is not capable of say if the server only returns text, and then we try to request a JSON format of the resource. The server should return 406 because it's not able to format the resource into JSON. And we have 415 unsupported media type. This is when we try to we want to make a resource to the server. Like we want to create a resource. We want to send our request in JSON format, but the server couldn't understand JSON. It couldn't parse JSON. This is what the server should return. 415 unsupported media type. And we have the 500 level errors. So 500, the generic server failure response. If something wrong goes with the directly in the server, we should use 500. And 501, if we haven't implemented the endpoint yet, so this is a placeholder, but this is not common because usually when we make a RESTful API, you should be able to implement all of the endpoints. So 502 bad gateway. So this is something like 500, but only the proxies return this, not the origin server. When we communicate with the server directly, it should return 500. And yeah, actually, those are a lot of the we have all those guidelines that we have to make a RESTful API. So we have the methods, we have the headers, we have the responses, and the spirit of REST, why it was created, is because it was made to solve problems regarding like the future of HTTP. Remember that this was created in 2000. The people are already connected to the internet, and there's there are a lot of services being hosted in the internet. So it makes sense for us to like create a style that we can adhere on, so that we don't have to think about it when we try to build it. So that's why we have these methods, we have these client headers, we have these responses. We should try to use them because it guides us to the development of our REST API. Okay, so and the next the next thing that we should consider, standards compliance is reasonable. Uh, before it was the rest architectural style is kind of like a very innovative thing that we had in the 2000s, because it tried to solve the problems of the future. And we're already in the future, and we have these problems now, that how should I make a web service? And that's why it's reasonable for us to like follow the standards that they had, because they they address the problems that we might encounter, like what should we do when there's an error in the business logic, what should we do when the client sends a malformed syntax. So that's why standards compliance is reasonable. uh, it's there for us to use, like when we have an alternative scenario in our mind, we could just refer to the standards. They might or might not have the answers for us. And standards compliance is adaptable. Again, the drafts that we had, it they were not static documents, they were living documents. That's why they get updated every time. Like we have new standards for the web, like we have the web sockets, we have RTP. So those are really new technologies that try to adapt to the trends. And REST and HTTP is no exception to this. We This is adapted to the future, depends on how we like retrieve our resource, like we manage our services. So it adapts to that. And that's why standards compliance is adaptable. And when we adhere to the standards, we also make our services adaptable. And respect the standards on to focus on solving our problems. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we create a web service. Uh, like all of the documents, maybe it takes time to interpret like the original documents that the pioneers of the web had for us. But sometimes it just makes sense to like go back. Maybe we're thinking too much about the problems that we have. Maybe the problem that we had was already solved. That's why we have something like this. That's why I've talked about REST and HTTP for many times, and I don't get tired of this one, because in we can focus more on like how our services should be, like how we offer our service to the clients that we have, instead of like how should we deal with this kind of scenario. And I think in that sense we can save more time, we can save more effort, we can save more money when we respect the standards to focus on solving our problems instead of like reinventing the wheel every time we create a request. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much. So my sources for these, we have a website called standards.press. You may want to go there. It contains a lot of the links to the already submitted drafts for standards like REST. So you might have other documents there. And of course, the IETF itself, which are the standards committee on responsible for making these kinds of documents available for us and solving the problems for us. And yeah, thank you very much and have a great evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for that wonderful talk, Alan. So I am Elram Espra, so you can call me Ram. So I'll be doing a talk or mostly a demo on building your first app via React Native. So let's get started. So first, you might have heard of React. So what's the difference between React Native? So essentially, React Native is an extension of React for mobile applications, and right now it has you can make applications also using React Native for web and iOS.
So essentially, they are both they have both the same syntax. So it's just JavaScript. So, and you can also make or use the template for TypeScript. So they are both maintained and was developed uh, from Facebook. So right now they're open sourced. So there are a lot of libraries that you can use. So first, prerequisites. So you need Node.js and also the JDK or the Java Development Kit. So at least Node uh, 11 and also JDK 14 for your machines. So if you haven't installed this, I'll demo it in a bit on how to do it in the command line. So let's get started. So first, if you need to have Android Studio if you want to make Android apps, of course. So if you also want iOS or you're on Mac, so you need Xcode. So for this talk or demo, I'll be mainly using Android Studio. So what you really need for Android Studio is just the virtual device manager. So if you don't have an Android phone, you can make a virtual device. So you just need it to be, you can choose from any of this in the phone. You just need the API level to be at least 30. So here it's R. So you can download those and then press next and create your Android virtual device. Or you can just connect your own Android. So there are a lot of tutorials on the web, so you can find that. So for me, I have Pixel 4 API 30 for the virtual device. Next would be, let's go to your terminal. So here, so I'm on a folder for all the resources that I'll give later. So if you haven't installed yet Node or JDK, so these are the commands. So if you're on Mac, so you just need to use brew and also this one. So this is for Node and Watchman, which we would be using for watching, or this is for the Mac so that we can use React Native fully. Also Cast, which is Zulu 11. So this is JDK 11 for Windows. And if you're on a Windows machine, you just need Choco. So this one, you need to put this in your command CMD or command line like that. First, you need to install Chocolatey, which is a package manager for Windows. So if you have those installed in your computer, so Node.js and JDK, you now have the capability to make React Native projects. So for example, this one. So all you need to do is npx React Native init and the uh, name of your project or folder. So for example, StackLeague and rn app. So there, I just press enter. Oops, it's an invalid name. So let's remove the dash. There. It's installing all the packages that you need for your React Native app. Let's see if you have comments. So you can type your comments while I'm doing the demo. So this is pretty straightforward. You can see this tutorial or demo inside their website. So that's reactnative.dev. And if you have prior experiences in JavaScript or React, the better, since they're, as I said before, they're essentially the same in coding. So you can also put some React React Native libraries that are extensible. So for example, you can go to this link. So React Native directory. So this one. So if you want, for example, a soft input or calendars in your React Native app, so you can do so there. And I think it's done. So there. So it's already done. So go to your preferred text editor or development editor. So for mine, it's Visual Studio Code. I'll open. Wait. I'll open the project. So that's in StackLeague. So this StackLeague RN app. And as you can see, this is the folder structure of the React Native app. So it's essentially the same for React. So we have app.js, which is where the main code lives. So as you can see here, when I so when you try to run it on the virtual device, you can just say npx. Let's see on the package JSON. So there. So it's already there. So you can just put npm run start or npm run Android. So npm run Android. So it's running. So it will open this window in your command line and also your emulator. So if you don't have an emulator, just connect your Android to the PC and it will, if it's connected and your USB debugging is on, then it will run on your device. So right now it's building the Android app. So if you can see on the left, so these are the folders for the native app, so the Android and iOS. So you can do both using just React Native. So it's executing now. It's building the app for my Android here. So if you have any questions, I can just see the comments. So feel free to ask them while I'm demoing. So there. So as you can see on the command line that popped up, which is Metro, it's bundling my React Native project into an Android app. And there. So this is their like home screen. So you can see the basics here if you're trying to make your own. So as an example, I'll get their this one. So it's in the app. The main code is living in the app. So for example, I'll change this welcome to something else. Let's see. Welcome. Here. So this one is on step 1. So let me change this into StackLeague. So when you save, it's already there. So it's very fast. So when you open your Metro, you can see it's putting logs. So it's an indicator that it restarted the app and then put your edited changes. So why don't we? So you can do essentially anything. You can do in React or as a JS in the JS. What do you call it? Programming language. So, but it uses JSX. So if you're not familiar with JSX, so it's essentially just JavaScript with XML combined. So as you can see, this is like HTML, but with JavaScript uh, codes. It's like this. So is it dark mode, the background style? So it's essentially a how-to in their initialized project for React Native. So why don't we use what Alan taught us before? So if you're familiar with React, so we can use states. So for example, I want a counter state. So set counter. So you can use states for making something on your app like responsive. So for example, this counter is initially 0, and I want to put a button here below Hello StackLeague. So button, click me. So when you go to wait, let's see the error. There. Let's move that here. Let me check. Okay, there's something wrong with my emulator. So let's try, for example, if you have a Mac device, you can also try on your iOS. So for example, you've seen on the package JSON, it has iOS support already. So when you type npm run iOS, if you're on Mac and you have installed Xcode, so you will also see here your simulator. For example, on mine it's iPhone 13. So they both are running the app that I am using or making. So this is for iOS. So as you can see, it's mainly doing the same thing before, which is building the app on the native device. So for this one, it's iOS. So here. So let me see the error that we are getting. Oh, okay. So you need a title for your button. So sorry for that. So click me. And see the Android. Okay. Ano pala? npm Android. So the error message, let's see it again. But yeah, so it's basically just the same if you have, if you want to develop on iOS or Android. So they're both here, but I haven't built the iOS. So let's go back to Android. So there's no error anymore. So let's see. So you can see a button. So these are native on Android, or if you're using iOS, then native on that platform. So for the button, let's put the counter. So it's on press. And then before we have a state for the counter, so let's add the state function click. I'll set the counter to +1. And let's see our counter here. So you can just put, if it's JSX, so as you can see, I can just put counter there and it will display the counter here. So hello StackLeague 0. So when you click me, so it's it's incrementing the value. So I think we still have a bit of time. So if you have your comments or questions, just put them in the comments. So since we have a bit of time, I'll show you how we can use what Alan said before on RESTful APIs, where we can use it everywhere. So for example, here on your React Native app, we can use, for example, this. So Poke API, it's a RESTful Pokemon API. So what you just need to do, for example, here, on click, I want to fetch, an example here is Ditto. So I'll put this code, fetch, and copy this, Ditto. So for this one, you need to async await. So if you want to learn more about async await functions, you can learn more on it on the web, on React or React Native. I suggest doing that first before going into our React Native development. So we have our response. So Ditto should be on our response. So response.json. For example, you just want to uh, debug your code. So you can use the console just like in JavaScript and put Ditto. So what it should do is fetch the Pokemon Ditto when I click me. So but when I added the console, so that's where this terminal comes in. So Metro. So when I click me, and there, it shows me the Ditto object. So that's what's put here. So I want that to be in the app. So for example, I'll change this into Pokemon and set Pokemon, and there. So I want to set that Pokemon into the name of this one. So what's the name of this Ditto? So let's see. Oops. Hmm. Okay, sorry. This one, Pokemon. So right now it's blank. Hello StackLeague blank. So when I click me, so it gives me Ditto. So if you can see here on their API, its name, where there, its name is Ditto. So you can essentially change this to anything here. So if you have other APIs or you want to also try it at home, so you can just use this one. And I guess that's it for my demo or talk on React, on building mobile apps on React Native. So I'll be posting this on a GitHub, and I'll let StackLeague put a comment for the GitHub repository, so you can change anything you want here and then try it on your own. And thank you so much for having me and Alan here. So if you don't have questions, you can do so now.
Thank you, Ram. So I'd like also to invite Alan back here on stage so that we could proceed with our Q&A. There. All right. Sige. Um, okay, for our participants tonight, feel free to type in your questions. So if you have any questions for Alan or for Ram, um, yep, now is the best time. Okay, baka ano, baka they're still shy. Sige. Okay. Once again, feel free to type in your questions for Ram and Alan here. So, okay, we have one question, but not relevant to our event. Um, for that question, Job, maybe you could message Alan personally. All right. Okay. So while waiting for the questions to come in, maybe do you have anything to add on your talk, or like siguro any tips or advice? Okay, wait. Sige, meron na. We have a question from Joshua Lawson. React Native versus Flutter. Which do you prefer and why? Sige.
Sige, so this is mainly my personal preference, but for me it's React Native. So I've done Flutter projects before, also on for clients, but uh, what's really important, for example, you're working on a company or you're working with a team, is being able to uh, shift the code or uh, make the app or make the app as fast as possible or within the time that the client wants it to be done. So for example, if you're already working on React and your teammates also know React, then why not just use React Native as like for the learning curve to be easier. For example, you only have web developers, then yeah, I suggest just using React Native. But if you already have, for example, Flutter devs, or you already know Flutter, then I guess you can also do that. So yeah, depends really.
All right. Thank you, Ram. So that no. So that's your parang personal preference, and from what you've mentioned also, it would all. I mean, or is there really a competition between the two?
Uh, I guess in the mobile dev, especially
Yeah.
right now. Mm. But yeah,
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
end of the day, it's on what you can do with it and not what you use. Yeah.
All right. So I hope that answers your question, Joshua. We have another question from Will Vaughn. Hello, Sir Ram. Were you using a bit of RxJS in your button example? You state not really my cup of tea.
Yes. So uh, right now, it's for example on out of the package, you can use states in React. So maybe you want to use other state managers, for example, Redux. I think will, because that's what we use also before, right? So if I I recommend use state since it's out of the box and you don't need any other external libraries. But yeah, I guess it makes sense if you're building a bigger app for like so many states and you can't handle them. So yeah, you really need a React state managers for that. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Ram. Yeah, I think that answered Will's question. Do we have any more questions from our audience tonight? So feel free. We still have a little bit of time to cater to your questions. So, all right. So while waiting na lang siguro for other questions to come in, baka nahihiya pa sila. So, um siguro maybe you could also share with our participants tonight, like for example, is there a way where they can communicate with you guys or reach out to you?
Uh, for me, you can uh, just ping me siguro on FB. So it's still Alarm Espra. Just you can also just message, but make sure to ano muna, uh, introduce yourself kasi baka scam.
Agree. How about Alan?
Yeah, actually, since Ram and I are both from Symph, so actually we maintain a Discord server. So we have a server that's free for all called the Symph and Friends. We actually have regular events there, so you can meet not only me or Ram. You can also meet other co-workers there. So we are very welcome to chat with everyone. You can also ask our founders if you want. Like you have a burning questions, you can just message us on Discord. And yeah,
All right. So there, a great way to connect with our speakers tonight. I think we have one question, and this would be the last question that we will be catering for tonight. This is from Captain Ivanov. Do you recommend learning React for a full stack development roadmap? I only know college web dev, and I want to learn Django also. So maybe we could hear from the both of you. I think this is more of an advice to I think Ivanov is a college student. So maybe we could start with Ram.
For me, yeah. If you want to learn just a framework for web dev, then yeah, I fully recommend learning React. If you also want to be full stack, for example, in our company, we use different frameworks also, but mainly also React since it's a growing trend right now. But you should also be open to other frameworks if that is so.
All right. How about for Alan?
yeah. Actually, I do recommend learning React for a full stack development. And actually, in addition to like learning a framework, you also have to learn what kind of what kind of apps do you plan on building. Because if you're planning to be a full stack developer, then I guess you're planning on making web apps or web services. And if that's the case, then web is a very diverse place for frameworks, for technologies, and everything. And if you like spend your time uh, comparing which is the best framework, is it React, is it Vue, is it Svelte, or any other framework, then it wouldn't be really productive compared to when you just choose a framework and then start building. And I guess that would take you anywhere. So if you feel like React is for you, then go ahead and you study like not just how to do React, but you also study like its characteristics, its weaknesses, its applications. Because frameworks are really good, all, but they're not a one size fits all thing. Like there are there are projects that really demand using frameworks, and there are projects that you can do without frameworks actually. So yes, in conclusion, you feel free to learn React, and if you want to learn Django also, yeah, feel free. And that's my advice is to you know learn deep, not just the surface level. Like know your craft if you're planning to get immersed into these technologies.
Well said. So agree no. Maybe siguro for starters, identify if what Parang ano yung direction, no, that you would like to take, especially in your career as a developer. All right. So, yep, as much as we want to cater to more questions, but our time is limited. And there. So before we dive into our announcement, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Alan and Ram, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess we can just put the link to the Symph Friends Discord server if anyone with a Discord account is interested to keep in touch with us. So we can just post it in StackLeague, right?
Yeah, I
All
agree.
right.
I'm mostly also uh, active on Discord, so yeah, you can just go to the Simpan Friends Discord server to ping us for any questions.
All right. So thank you. So once again, if you need more details, you can connect with Alan and Ram after this session. So feel free to join. I think it's open. So we'll be posting the link there. So we'll be posting the link to the Discord server. So feel free to join and get in touch with Alan and Ram. Once again, thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you also Alan and Ram for your time and for answering our participants' question, and of course for that very insightful presentation.
Yes. Thank you very much, StackLeague, for giving us an opportunity to reach out to a lot of people, and I hope that we can talk more, discuss more topics in the future.
Yes, thank you so much, Stackly.
Yes, for sure, for sure. This will be one of the many events that we will be doing together. So thank you once again, Alan and Ram.
Thank you.
So there you have it. I hope you learned something from our event and from our speakers for tonight. Okay? And here are the upcoming events and Stack League announcements. So we're almost halfway through the league. Make sure to join the Stack League Mid-Year All-Stars on June 29 at 6 p.m. to celebrate your breakthroughs and small wins. So there will be pop quizzes, freebies, and giveaways. One upcoming event is our Stack League session Journey from Developer to Manager on July 6 at 6 p.m. Make sure to reserve your slot at bit.ly/StackLeagueDev2Manager. That's bit.ly/StackLeagueDev2Manager. Another upcoming event is our Stack League Career Session, How to Land a Successful Job as a Developer on July 13 at 6 p.m. Make sure to reserve your slot at bit.ly/StackLeagueCareerDev. That's bit.ly/StackLeagueCareerDev. There are plenty of opportunities for you to learn here in Stack League. Make sure to visit our Facebook page. That's fb.com/StackLeague/events for the registration details and get the latest updates. To help our team improve the sessions for you, make sure to answer this question form, and we will also be sending you an email of the link for this form. So you could also access the form ahead at bit.ly/StackLeagueSessionsFeedback, or you can simply scan the QR code that you can see on your screen right now. Stack League Ambassador for June is still open and is still accepting entries. To earn your ambassador points, you can either refer to friends and family or submit your blog sharing your league experience, or you can do both. Make sure to visit bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador2022 for information. Once again, that's bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador2022 for more information. Also, make sure to earn league points to unlock the challenger levels and receive our prizes. Don't forget to also check out the Stack League Lightning series. Again, the schedule for the silver category will be on June 28 at 6 p.m. And for more details, visit bit.ly/lightning series mechanics. That's bit.ly/lightning series mechanics. And that's it for our announcement. On behalf of the Stack League team, I would like to say thank you to everybody for joining the Stack League Symph Tech Session, what you need to know about REST API and HTTP. Again, if you don't have a Stack League account yet, make sure to sign up now at stackleague.com, and of course, invite your friends and family who you think should be part of the league. I hope to see you guys at our next Stack League event. This has been your host, Isai. Good night, everyone.